Hi, welcome back to Natasha's Reads Right Now, where I'm going to be sharing my reread experience with the book of Twilight. So just a quick explanation of why I am changing the format of my book reviews. As a BookTube newbie, I tried to, I had a lot of my own opinions about books, but I didn't understand actually sitting down in front of a camera talking about them and formatting them a certain way. So I looked at other successful booktubers who are just amazing at what they do, but there was only so many of those videos, those technically correct book reviews that I could watch until I felt super dumb. And I felt that, wow, why did I feel this way about the book? I feel super stupid. Honestly, that was too draining on me. The real joy that I felt while reading these books, or the real heartache I was experiencing reading these books, I felt was getting lost as I was trying to edit myself into the correct format. I wanted to get on here and try to be myself and hope that anyone else out there who is going through the same struggles I am with talking about books can, get something out of this channel. So I thought instead of sharing a book review, I would share more of my reading experience with the book. And I hope that you guys will also feel comfortable to share your reading experiences, because whether a book was good or bad technically, what a person gets out of their reading experience is 100% valid. The feelings that they felt, or the relationship between the book and their real life that they can connect with, is 100% valid, and every time will be the correct response for a person. Especially with books being so subjective, especially in the sci-fi fantasy genre. I want this to be a safe space where people can share a reading experience not care about whether a book was good or not. I am so surprised that this is the book that inspired me. So a little bit about my background with this series. I read it as a teenager, and I read them all, and I really did love it. I wasn't as outwardly obsessed with the book and the movies as a lot of my friends were, but I knew I really liked it. I just couldn't figure out why I liked it back then. With starting BookTube and making a goal of reading books in a series that have new releases coming out, and because this just fit that goal so perfectly, I felt like I had to reread Twilight, and it would just be something where I can make fun of myself because I liked it as a kid. I feel like I got more out of it as an adult than I did as a teenager. I love this more now than I did then. Kind of some self-reflection and making notes of why I think this is the reason I got so much out of it, is because I am an introvert with very extreme social anxiety. And so that's kind of the lens that I'm looking at this book with. You know what? And like I said, this might not be a technically correct way to review this book, and a lot of the lines, quotes that I consider evidence for the way I feel about this book, they could be totally wrong, but it's just my experience, and I hope you get something out of this. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the writing style itself. We are in Bella's head. We are listening to Bella's thoughts, and it is just her going through the day as she sees her day. So it's not a perfect storytelling method. I feel the way this book is written is the way that my mind works on a daily basis. And so a lot more things jumped out at me this time around with knowing that about myself. I think Bella even talks about the writing style a little bit, and I love the way she says this. And I was thinking about how disjointedly time seemed to flow in forks, passing in a blur at times, with single images standing out more clearly than others. And that it completely described how my mind works. So for example, like, she's going throughout her day and she talks about how she's just thinking about other things, and then all of a sudden, she realizes she missed something in the conversation. Or they're just, walking to class. Mike's walking her to her class, and you don't really understand why that's in the story, why it's important, but keep in mind that, this is Bella's just unfiltered thoughts, just her string of consciousness throughout the day. So do you know that feeling when you are driving and you just kind of phase out for a little bit and then you startle yourself with thinking, oh my gosh, how did I get to this road? Like, where did the past 10 minutes go? So that's kind of how my mind works on a daily basis. Okay, so enough about the actual writing style. I'm going to be reading way too much into every single line in this book, fair warning. Another part of this book that I really appreciated this time was Bella's relationships, not just with Edward, Jessica's feelings towards Mike. And even though Jessica really at times annoyed Bella, I think it's great how Bella still stood up for her. I'm gonna find it in the book. When Mike is talking about how Jessica asked me to the dance, and she's like, and Bella's like, all right, that's great. I hope you guys have fun. And he's like, I told her I'd think about it. And that kills me. In the movie, they play him off as the nice guy who just really wants to ask out Bella. But dude, like, she's already told you no. And somebody else who really likes you asks you out. And you tell her you have to think about it, like, you know what, I'm going to go explore my offers here. So you shouldn't make Jess wait any longer. It's rude. And I am totally on board with Bella there. And I love this part too because it highlights another really cool character feature of hers where she puts herself down on the time and she talks about how clumsy she is, how dumb or how unattractive she is. And so it's very obvious that she has self-esteem issues, but she does not lack self-respect. And I think that's so cool because literally she has these 3 high school guys clamoring all over her, but she didn't like them and she stood up for herself. Mike continued to be persistent for the first half of the book, and she just kept telling him no. And she was still so polite about it. It was really nice. But when push came to shove, she's like, you're being rude. You need to go tell Jess that you will go with her. And I love that. So even though Jessica isn't like her super BFF or what Bella considers a BFF, she still sticks up for her because she can see that, you know, Jess really likes him and she thinks that the two of them should go together. I feel that over time that I felt like, yeah, she didn't really connect with any of her girlfriends and get some perspective, but she really did. There were at least a couple of times where after she went out on a date with Edward or had conversations with him, that she actually talked to Jessica about it. You know, it only went so far because Bella does not like the spotlight on herself, so she tries to, oh, so how's Mike doing, kind of thing. And I really enjoyed that. That was pretty cool. Just a reminder of, yes, Bella did have friendships and relationships with other people other than Edward. And that's going to get me into transitioning into the relationships she made with the Cullens. I like that in the book, it's not just an immediate reaction to Edward that draws her in. She notices Rosalie first and talks about how just being in the room with Rosalie will put a hit on any girl's self-esteem. So it wasn't just a direct connection with Edward. It was that the Cullens as a family fascinated her because she's in her head and working through all of these characters' personalities. The ones that she can't peg are the Cullens, and that's what draws her in. I completely forgot how amazing Jasper was in the book. So towards the end of the book, when James is hunting Bella, and the whole Cullens family is, you know, strategizing, making a plan of how to get rid of James. And Bella is just stressed out and worried, and she's so scared. She's scared for Edward, but she's also scared for every single member of the Cullens family because she's built up a relationship with them. And she's just like, if any of them die, I'm just I'm not worth it. And Jasper has this amazing line that I get teary-eyed every time I think about it is, um, he says, "You're wrong, you know," he said quietly. "What?" I gasped. "I can feel, I can feel what you're feeling now, and you are worth it." She's like, "I'm not. If anything happens to them, it will all be for nothing." And he's like, "You're wrong," he repeated, smiling kindly at me. So, and Jasper's just amazing to me because he's new to being a vegan vampire. So it is a struggle for him to be near her. Another kind of moment with Jasper in the book was uncharacteristically, Jasper slid closer to me. He lightly touched his hand to my shoulder, and the physical contact seemed to make his calming influence stronger. The panic stayed dull, unfocused. So yeah, that's another example of how he, is still uncomfortable being around her, but if she needed him, he's there for her. Later on, if the movie had explored this relationship with Jasper more, that the slip up in New Moon would have been more impactful, more emotionally impactful because of how close Jasper and Bella really were. So, of course, we talk about Jasper. We're going to talk about Alice. And in the movie, it was more like insta friendship. Like, I just know we're going to be friends because I saw it in the future. And it just is. But a lot of the times in this book, it really reflects the slow build that was. Before Bella even had a one-on-one conversation with her, there were times that Edward needed to go hunting more in order to be around Bella. And Alice was actually the one that encouraged it and helped him with that kind of stuff. So when Edward drove Bella to school, and then he's like, if we're going to meet later, I've got to go hunting right now. So Alice is going to bring your truck to school. Just little things like that. And there's another funny part at the end of the book. Or not the end, towards the end. When everyone is passing Bella around like a football, like all of the Cullens, including Esme, and of course starting with Emmett, Esme, and they're just in a hurry. We've got to protect her, so they just grab her and go. Before Alice does that, she's like, "May I?" Holding her hands out to Bella, and Bella's like, "You're the first one to ask permission." I just loved that. That was a cute little add-on. And Alice, I hate that they gave the explanation of how someone becomes a vampire. I hate that they gave it to Edward in the movie. I love that it came from Alice because, like I said, it's another friendship builder. And Alice tells her, "I will always be the one to tell you the truth." Because with Edward keeping so much stuff from Bella, Alice is the one there who's just going to be a friend and isn't going to lie to her. I think the protection goes both ways. Bella wants to protect the Cullens. And I think it's so meaningful what she says. And what if you get hurt, Alice? Do you think that's okay with me? Do you think it's only my human family he can hurt me with? And I love that. She really thinks of the Cullens as her family, not just Edward, but the Cullens in general. And I don't know. I feel like by exploring Bella's relationships, other than Edward, we really get a deeper sense of her character and how deeply she feels things. And with the Cullens, she's able to express it. And with somebody who is a strong introvert, that, emotions don't always show outwardly with introverts. And oh my gosh, in the movie completely left out Alice's backstory, which is such a bummer. It was amazing. First off, that James knew her. And Alice didn't recognize him because she doesn't remember her human life before she was turned into a vampire. About the asylum, the shock treatments that she went through because she had these visions. And, back then, people thought she was cray-cray. And, put her in an insane asylum. Oh my gosh, that just adds a whole new dimension to Alice's character. Man, I can't believe that wasn't in the movie. That is huge. Like, I'm talking like this because my mind literally was blown, because over time I completely forgot about this little detail about Alice. So, oh gosh, this reread was amazing. I got so much out of it. All right, now we get to Bella and Edward's relationship. And this is where I really feel that the movie ruined it for me. And I'm really bummed that I had such a low opinion of this book for so long. The movie version is what stuck with me. So I feel that the movie, golly, just made their relationship more sex crazed instead of, a love crazy book of two people falling for each other. Their relationship really is a slow burn. So it really starts with the restaurant as the big, tipping point into relationship for them. Before then, they had conversations in the lunchroom where, Bella hadn't noticed that everyone's gone. Everyone left the lunchroom and they're still talking. And that happened multiple times throughout the book. And at the restaurant, after Edward saved her from that group of awful guys, he's worried about her going into shock. And that's the main reason why he keeps pushing food at her, even though she keeps saying, I'm not hungry. Bella is really observant for other people, but I feel that she doesn't truly get herself. So I love that Edward's there to remind her to take care of herself. As she's drinking the Coke and starts to drink more deeply, she's like, wow, I'm so surprised on how thirsty I was. And Edward pushes the drink that he ordered from himself towards her, like he anticipated that she would need more than one drink. That's such a little tiny detail, but it really tells me a lot about Edward. And actually, a lot of great things get mentioned about Edward in that restaurant, where he talks about his mind reading. And in the movie, they make it seem all powerful. So Edward really shouldn't have an issue because he has this awesome superpower. But really, he talks about it and says that it's always going on in his head. There's like this constant humming of voices going on. And he even mentions how by tuning it out, I'm able to act normal. Unless I accidentally answer someone's thoughts instead of their words. Even with familiar voices, he says that those he can pick out, but he still has to be relatively close, like no more than a couple miles. And he even says, unless I focus on one voice, it still just sounds like a hum, a buzzing in my ear. So I like this detail in the book because it shows that Edward is really dealing with his own stuff. And multiple times he talks about not wanting to become a monster, that he's really dealing with right and wrong because, on the surface, going back and killing those guys sounds like justice, but he doesn't want to become a monster himself. So he really has a lot that he's struggling with. And I was really hard on him after the movies, thinking, what, dude, you need to step it up. But I have to remember, he's frozen in time as a 17-year-old, reliving high school over and over again. That's got to mess with your mind like a ton. And so he's dealing with his own stuff. So yes, he's not going to be perfect, but together, Bella and Edward work on their imperfections together and kind of make up for what the other one is lacking. And this restaurant scene continues on through his car. They talk about so much. They really get it all out in the open. And I love that because you don't get that a lot with teenage romances. They're just too embarrassed to talk about certain things. And that leads me into the awkward kissing and the bedroom scene in the movie. So their first kiss in the book is actually after Edward shows off that he is all sparkly. It doesn't ring the same bell for me as it did when I was a teenager. But anyways, moving on. So after that, they're in the field and they're outside. And yeah, he tries to kiss her. Like they're talking about it. And he starts to go in for the kiss. And in the book, it's really beautiful. It's and it demonstrates how hard he's trying to be around her and but still love her. And when she immediately starts to get a little rambunctious outside, like he just stiffens up, smiles, and backs away. And so it's much less awkward in the book. But in the movie, I mean, he's all of a sudden in her room and she's in her underwear, and it turns out into, okay, should we or should we not like total mac out hard to this? And like he rushes in and he grabs her hips and flings her on the bed, and it's so awkward in the movie. It's so weird and I hate it. And what really happens is she talks about how she needs, a human minute, and she goes in, gets ready for bed, goes downstairs to tell, show Charlie that she's not going to sneak out that night. She even talks about how glad she doesn't have those Victoria's Secret underwear that her mother got her for a birthday or something like that. And in the movie, she is in her underwear with Edward in the room, like just whatever, all comfortable with this. And they both talk about being virgins and how they've never felt the way they do about each other with anyone else. They are super honest with each other. And Edward's saying, I know, it's just that I know other people's thoughts. I know love and lust don't always keep the same company. And Bella's like, they do for me. Now, anyway, that they exist for me at all, I sighed. That's nice. We have that one thing in common, at least. He sounded satisfied. And I don't know, the movie just made it unnecessarily creepy and weird. I really hated that combination scene that they put in the movie. So I just love that rereading this added so much more depth to Bella and Edward's relationship. And I know a lot of the time that Bella is always thinking that the relationship is so uneven, like Edward has so much more to offer, but I think she really sells herself short a lot of the time. And even we know from Alice that Edward has been talking to his whole family for a while about Bella and how he feels about her, because Alice says, when they're trying to protect her from James, that do you think we could even look Edward in the eye if something were to happen to you, like how devastated he would be. I love that, again, adding Edward's family back into the mix, because it makes it more open. Like, he's not hiding it. He's not guilty about the way he feels. He struggles with whether or not he can control, biting her, but he's open with the way he feels and how much he loves her. And speaking of the James attack, she was the one that made the plan of getting out of Forks. When Edward is just all obsessed that James, he saw into James's mind and is so worried of what he's going to do to Bella. And so he's just so distraught he can't think straight and isn't going to take Bella home first with Charlie. Even in the midst of all this danger, she's still thinking strategically. You take me back. I tell my dad I'm going to go to Phoenix. We wait until the tracker is watching so that he'll follow me and not come after Charlie. And also, Charlie's not stupid. If I disappear after I go out with you that one time, he is going to bring the FBI all over your family, and that's not what she wanted. It's not a bad idea, really. Emmett's surprise was definitely an insult. Emmett is hilarious to her. He's like a big brother who just teases her relentlessly and thinks that her being clumsy is just the funniest thing. And Emmett, he's like, Edward, listen to her, he urged. I think she's right. After Bella talks, the rest of her plan through, saying, Edward, you can't come with me. The tracker's gonna know that you're gonna want to stay with me. So you leave me. That will draw him away. Lead him on a wild goose chase, and then in a roundabout way, come back, and then we'll be together. Edward thinks that this won't work. He'll hear where you're going, to Phoenix, and you'll make it look like that's a ruse, obviously. He'll know that we'll know that he's listening. He'll never believe I'm actually going where I say I'm going. And Emmett says, she's diabolical. that's more the big brother teasing kind of thing. And I just love Emmett. He's so fun. And his background isn't in there too. How Rosalie, Emmett was actually attacked by a grizzly bear and near death, and Rosalie saves him. And that's how those two meet, and I liked getting that perspective. But that's also kind of funny how now Emmett, as a vampire, his favorite animals to hunt are the bears, because she's like, well, if you think you're gonna get me, I'm gonna come back as a vampire and kill all the grizzly bears. So I thought that was a fun little add-on to Emmett's character. Now, the whole reason I'm bringing up this point of Bella thinking that the relationship is so uneven, and to the outside, especially to her friends, it looks very one-sided. But it just depends on how much value you place on the different things that Bella is bringing into the relationship. She also has the understanding, like he's saying just flat out, I'm trying not to kill you. And in that moment, she could have just freaked out and said, this is not worth it. You are not worth it. But instead, she goes and asks him, you are this amazing creature, and these are your natural instincts as a vampire. Why are you denying yourself that? She's like, I'm glad you are, but why would you even try? Like, she really just deep dives into Edward. And I think that's super important. Even though something terrifies you and at first just sickens you, to be able to get past that, I think that has a really high value. Even afterwards, it's not really like she's not judging, it's that she just tries to understand. And she really is very smart at the times that it counts. So I really don't think that this relationship is unbalanced. I think Edward is more outwardly contributing in ways that most of their peers around them would say is more important. But honestly, understanding Bella this time, I feel that she has a lot of value to this relationship. Okay, and of course we get a little bit of Jacob in this book. And I thought his character was pretty butchered too in the movies, but unlike Mike, who they turned into a nice guy, I feel like they turned Jacob into kind of a tool. She tries to flirt with him to get answers about Edward. She just keeps going, and that was a point where I was frustrated with her. Everyone's not perfect, and she is a teenager trying to figure things out, but to push that off onto other people and to basically hurt other people, that's what really bothers me. And so her flirting with Jacob was really obnoxious. I didn't like that, because he really was super sweet. At prom, at the end of the book, Billy told me that, you need to break up with your boyfriend. He's no good, and he warns her that they will be watching her. Bella, she says, Billy thinks Edward had something to do with me getting her in Phoenix. But honestly, without Edward, I would have died. Jacob says, I know. And he sounded like my sincere words had affected him some. I really feel that, unlike Mike, Jacob respects Bella's relationship with Edward. I'm really curious, especially with the reread, how my views about Edward and Jacob will be altered. So really excited to get into New Moon. Whew. Okay, so I'm realizing that this video is getting very long. And I could just keep going. I really could. Too many notes, too many things to mention. I really hope that the main points were, Bella thinks differently. Her mind works differently. And especially when it comes to the writing style, that this may not be for everyone. A point in the book that Bella makes is, so my brain is broken, I'm a freak. And I feel like I've said so many phrases similar to that growing up, that's why I really related and why this book spoke to me so much. Looking at it from this perspective that Bella has a lot more going on underneath that not everybody knows about. And I wanted to demonstrate how that reflected in her relationships, which she built a lot more relationships than just Edward. And And I think they were beautiful and full of quality. And of course, that leads into Edward, her relationship with him. It was two people coming together who both feel that they're broken, and that Bella brought a lot more to the relationship than she gave herself credit for. And I think Edward really understands this and cares about her. The relationship was a lot deeper than I remember, and I loved it because I got to marry my Edward in a way. And actually, my Edward is named Edwin, which when she tells Charlie that they're going on a date, he actually starts calling him Edwin. And so, yeah, obviously this book was tailor-made for me, and I'm probably going to get a lot more out of it than everyone else out there, but I'm so excited that it happened. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this whole reading experience of mine with Twilight. In the future, I probably will not go as in depth with describing my reading experience with the book, but I want to continue this format. There's so many other amazing technical booktubers out there who are phenomenal at what they do, so I figure this is my little bit that I can contribute to BookTube. Going forward, I hope this is something you enjoy, and if you think it is, please consider to like and subscribe, share your reading experiences. That really helps me feel connected to you guys, and I hope that no matter what level of reading that you're currently at, that you just continue to read and enjoy the journey.